May 21st, 2024, 2:57 p.m., Greenfield, Iowa. An ordinary Tuesday afternoon sky transformed into total apocalypse in a matter of minutes. Winds exceeding 300 miles per hour. A dark wall of debris tearing across the fields, leaving nothing but bare concrete behind. In a matter of minutes, a large portion of the town was devastated. The official record makes no sense. Mobile Doppler radar clocked this storm at 318 miles per hour, measured aloft by mobile radar. Those numbers put it in the top tier of the most violent wind speeds ever measured on planet Earth. The Enhanced Fujita scale sets the EF5 threshold at 200 miles per hour. This tornado exceeded that by more than 100. The official rating? EF4. Not EF5. EF4. And that gap between what the radar saw and what the rating says reveals something broken about how we measure nature's fury. This is the story of the storm that shouldn't exist according to the paperwork, and the people who stood in its path anyway. The morning of May 21st began like a postcard spring day. Families gathered for celebrations. Schools prepared to dismiss students early. Residents went about their daily routines in a town of 2,000 people where everyone knew everyone. For the people of Greenfield, weather warnings were routine background noise. They had heard dozens of sirens before. The difference between a watch and a warning had blurred into white noise. Roughly 60 miles southwest of Des Moines, something unprecedented was taking shape. An intense low-pressure system pulled warm, unstable moisture from the Gulf of Mexico straight into the path of a violent cold front. The collision generated extreme atmospheric shear that primed southwest Iowa for rapid supercell development. Meteorologists watching the radar displays saw circulation signatures they would later describe as textbook perfect. The kind of storm structure you show students when you want to explain what a tornadic supercell looks like. Time was running out. Nobody in Greenfield knew they had less than 3 hours. Nobody in Greenfield knew they had less than 3 hours. 2:55 p.m. on May 21st, 2024. The National Weather Service issued an urgent tornado warning for Adair County. Emergency sirens wailed across the city. Phones screamed with alerts, but a deadly trap was already set. The vortex was moving at highway speeds, 53 miles per hour, faster than most people drive through town. And it was completely cloaked by a thick column of dust and debris that rose thousands of feet into the air, making visual confirmation nearly impossible until the storm was directly overhead. Those in its path had minutes to react, not the 15 or 20 minutes warning systems are designed to provide. On radar screens, the Greenfield supercell had taken on an unmistakable shape. The hook echo was tight, well-defined, and rotating with violent intensity. Doppler velocity scans showed a circulation so strong that the software struggled to display it accurately. The debris signature was enormous, indicating that the tornado was already on the ground and chewing through everything in its path. Inside newsrooms across Iowa, the calm professionalism of meteorologists broke into something raw, genuine anxiety. They realized the town was running out of time, and there was nothing anyone could do but take cover and hope. Around that time, the developing supercell tracked across southwestern Iowa. 49-year-old Monica Irma Zamaron is driving on the roadway when winds near 150 miles per hour blow her vehicle completely off the pavement. The car rolls violently into the adjacent fields. The violent rotation ejects Monica from the vehicle. Rescuers rush to the scene within minutes. Too late. She becomes one of the tragic casualties of the storm's track, a grim demonstration of the lethal danger of trying to outrun a fast-moving supercell. Her death would later be misreported as a storm chaser fatality. She wasn't. She was a local resident caught in the outer circulation of a storm moving faster than highway traffic. Around 4:00 p.m., the vortex achieves extreme intensity. EF3 at this point, still growing. The huge tornado strikes the Orient wind farm near Prescott, where Mid-American Energy operates rows of towering wind turbines standing hundreds of feet tall. These are not decorative structures. They are engineered to withstand extreme wind loads, bolted deep into reinforced concrete foundations, designed to flex and survive. The tornado snaps 5 of them at their bases. Clean breaks. One bursts into a tower of flames as the internal mechanics rupture and ignite. The symbols of clean energy, built to harness the wind, are shredded like toothpicks. Inside a nearby farmhouse, a family huddles in the basement as steel and fiberglass rain down on their land. The structures collapse around them. They survive because they stayed underground. When they emerge, the surroundings are unrecognizable. 3:27 p.m. on May 21st, 2024. The tornado slams into Greenfield. Inside are patients in critical care, staff running triage, and families waiting for news. Winds estimated at 185 miles per hour tore into the roof and structure of the hospital. The building shudders. Windows explode inward. Across the skyline, severe damage spread across Greenfield. Physician assistant Meg Huey and the medical staff make a choice in that moment. They shield the patients with their own bodies and mattresses in the interior hallways. The building is heavily damaged. The roof is gone, but everyone inside survives. Minutes later, they coordinate the evacuation of critical care patients with no power, no water, and no roof. They set up a makeshift triage clinic in a nearby lumber yard. Sawdust and blood. Improvised stretchers. A hospital without walls, operating in the open air because there was no other option. 3:30 p.m. The vortex achieves peak intensity, EF4. Two-story brick homes bolted to concrete foundations are sheared off to bare slabs in less than 20 seconds. Asphalt is stripped clean off the roads, leaving exposed dirt and gravel. Vehicles are hurled 300 yards into buildings, embedding themselves in walls and rooftops. Inside one home, Larry Vanderpluim stands in his kitchen when the walls disintegrate around him. The wind doesn't knock him down. It lifts him. He is sucked out of the structure and thrown an entire block away, landing in a pile of debris with a brain bleed, 6 broken ribs, and a fractured femur. He wakes up in the wreckage, conscious, in agony, struggling against his severe injuries. State Representative Ray Sorensen and construction worker Andrew Sandstrom are running toward the devastation when they spot him. 2 strangers who had never met Larry before that moment. They lifted him into the bed of a pickup truck and transported him to safety. Everyone in his house survived the blast. Larry spent weeks in the hospital. He walked out alive because 2 men ran toward the danger instead of away from it. At the same moment, Sherry Wolf is sucked out of her house alongside her mother Diane and her son Sawyer. All 3 are thrown into the air. Sherry lands 2 houses away. Somehow, all 3 survive with severe injuries. The physics of that survival are impossible to explain. The tornado threw them hundreds of feet, and they lived. The storm carved a path 1,600 yards wide at its peak, more than 3/4 of a mile. For comparison, that is wider than 14 football fields placed side by side. Anything within that corridor ceased to exist as a recognizable structure. 153 homes were destroyed or rendered uninhabitable, not damaged, gone. When the winds finally died, the streets were unrecognizable. The smell of leaking natural gas hung heavy in the air. The local hospital was critically damaged and unable to receive the injured. Power lines lay tangled in the streets like dropped thread. The town's water supply was completely cut off by the destruction of the water tower. The entire city became an ad hoc rescue zone. Neighbors pulled neighbors from basements. Strangers became search teams. Emergency responders from surrounding counties flooded in, navigating roads blocked by debris and downed power lines. Communication networks were completely dead. Cell towers were down. Landlines were shredded. For hours, Greenfield was isolated from the outside world. An even quieter nightmare loomed. Toxic debris filled the air. Sharp metal and shattered glass covered every surface. Leaking gas lines turned entire blocks into potential firebombs. The trauma of the sudden devastation left deep psychological scars on survivors who watched large parts of their town ripped apart in minutes. The storm kept claiming lives long after the sky cleared, not through wind, but through the slow accumulation of injury, infection, and despair. 4 people in Greenfield died that day. Dean Wiggins, 78. Pam Wiggins, 77. Michael Jensen, 73. Lee Williamson, 70. Each of them had lived through decades of Iowa storms. Each of them knew how to take cover. None of them survived. Add Monica Zamaron's death near Corning, and the total rises to 5. 5 empty chairs at family dinner tables. 5 funerals in the weeks that followed. 5 lives that cannot be rebuilt, no matter how much concrete and steel goes back into the ground. The official numbers present a problem. The Doppler on Wheels mobile radar unit was deployed near Greenfield during the tornado. Dow 7, operated by researchers from the Center for Severe Weather Research, recorded wind speeds of 263 to 271 miles per hour at a height of 30 to 50 meters above the surface. When those measurements are adjusted to ground level using standard atmospheric models, the peak winds calibrate to 309 to 318 miles per hour. 318 miles per hour. The EF5 threshold is 200 miles per hour. This tornado exceeded that by more than 50%. Those are winds that strip pavement off highways, winds that embed pieces of straw into telephone poles, winds that turn cars into missiles and reduce engineered structures to molecular-level debris. The official rating? EF4. Maximum wind speed estimate, 185 miles per hour. Not because the radar was wrong. The radar was accurate. But because the Enhanced Fujita scale does not rate tornadoes based on wind speed, it rates them based on damage to structures. And if a tornado hits an area with poorly anchored homes, older construction, or inadequate engineering, it cannot demonstrate EF5 damage even if the winds are well into EF5 territory. The Greenfield tornado hit a small town with a mix of residential construction, some of it decades old. The damage was catastrophic, but the structures that were destroyed were not built to the standard needed to reveal true EF5 wind speeds. The rating system is not a measurement of the storm. It is a measurement of what the storm hit. This creates a perverse incentive. A tornado can only be rated EF5 if it strikes the right kind of building. A well-constructed building destroyed to its foundation or severe structural failure across various damage indicators. If high-end damage across standard indicators demonstrates wind speeds exceeding 200 mph, then and only then can the National Weather Service assign an EF5 rating. The Greenfield tornado is not alone. The El Reno, Oklahoma tornado of May 31, 2013 was the widest tornado ever recorded at 2.6 miles across, with mobile radar measurements exceeding 295 miles per hour. It was rated EF3. Not because the winds were weak, but because the damage indicators in the rural areas it struck were insufficient to demonstrate higher-end damage. The system is broken. Radar technology has advanced to the point where we can measure wind speeds with unprecedented accuracy. But the official rating system ignores those measurements in favor of post-storm damage surveys that are inherently limited by the quality of construction in the affected area. Greenfield should have been an EF5. The winds were there. The destruction was total. But the paperwork says EF4. And that is what goes into the record books. The storm claimed 5 lives, caused over $31 million in damage, and permanently altered the map of southwest Iowa. That dollar figure is conservative. It does not account for the long-term economic impact of businesses that never reopened, families that relocated, or the psychological toll on survivors. Years have passed. Memorial parks bloom where ruins once lay. The Adair County Memorial Hospital underwent rapid reconstruction and fully reopened its doors to patients in November 2024, just 6 months after the disaster. New schools have been built. Life has returned to Greenfield, though the scars remain visible in the architecture. Newer homes sit next to empty lots where foundations were never rebuilt. In May 2025 and again in May 2026, residents held memorial services at the site of the former First Presbyterian Church. The Greenfield Public Library continues to preserve local history and community records in the wake of the disaster, a quiet monument to the day the sky fell. The true legacy of the Greenfield tornado is the dignity of human courage. In the medical staff who stood by their patients as the roof tore away above them, in the strangers who pulled survivors from the rubble and refused to leave them behind, in the ordinary neighbors who ran toward danger without hesitation, knowing full well they might not come back. Dean Wiggins, Pam Wiggins, Michael Jensen, Lee Williamson, Monica Irma Zamaran. 5 names, 5 lives. 5 people who lost their lives in the May 21st, 2024 tornado outbreak and never made it to dinner. Storms can erase concrete and steel. They can strip towns from the map and turn landmarks into debris fields. But they cannot destroy dignity. They cannot erase love. And they cannot silence the stories of the people who stood in the path of 318-mile-per-hour winds and chose to protect each other anyway. Take care of one another. Every storm eventually ends.